When Mitchell left, he was taunted with cries of traitor and go to jail and the phrase law and order.
Law and order was, of course, one of President Nixon's slogans. Now the crowd outside the courthouse was using it to taunt Nixon's former attorney general as he arrived to face his own criminal charges. So that was a big, unprecedented day. America watching all these top aides to the president file into court, pleading not guilty to serious crimes, giving up their passports. More than 4 decades later, we got ourselves another president who picked up Richard Nixon's habit of talking about law and order, and also Nixon's habit of being surrounded by crooks. But in Donald Trump's case, instead of all the people around him being hauled into court once for one big crime the way they were under Nixon, over the last few years, we've had to watch all these close friends and associates of President Trump walk into court one at a time, each of them often facing charges in a completely separate criminal enterprise, each of them unique, like snowflakes. We watched Trump's personal lawyer arrive in court to face charges of making hush money payments to Trump's alleged mistresses. We watched Trump's national security advisor head into court to face charges of lying to the FBI. When Trump's campaign chairman was indicted on a raft of felonies, including tax and bank fraud, he did the walk very fast, like maybe he could outrun the press. Trump's longtime political advisor, Roger Stone, did the walk like he does everything else, flamboyantly, dressed like a cartoon villain and attended by a giant entourage to face his sentencing for lying to Congress and witness tampering. When Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, was charged with defrauding donors who thought they were donating to a fund to build Trump's wall, but were actually just donating to Steve Bannon's pockets, he was quite amiable and jolly outside the courthouse, also looking quite tanned and relaxed, because he had just been arrested that morning on a Chinese billionaire's yacht. Still wearing 2 shirts, though, always with the 2 shirts. And now today we've got the chairman of Trump's inaugural, Tom Barrack, arriving at federal court in Brooklyn to plead not guilty to charges of acting as an agent of a foreign government of the United Arab Emirates and lying to federal authorities about it. Barrack is out on $250 million bond, as far as we can tell, the highest bond ever set in this country's history. He had to give up his passports, and he's going to be monitored via an electronic ankle bracelet. Now, after his plea, Barrack said in a statement, quote, "Of course I'm innocent of all these charges, and we will prove that in court." And he will have to prove it in court because unlike so many of Trump's other friends and associates charged with or convicted of crimes, for Tom Barrack, it is too late for a Trump presidential pardon. Even having lived through Richard Nixon and Watergate as a country, we're just not accustomed to watching our courtrooms play host to this never-ending parade of government and campaign officials and presidential friends and donors, all from a single one-term presidency. And it's not just high-profile figures, the upper echelon folks from Donald Trump's inner circle. Our nation's courts from coast to coast are packed with people, hundreds of them, who are charged with committing crimes in the former president's name. Many of the Americans who attacked the Capitol on January 6th are explicitly arguing in court that President Trump told them to do it. He told them the election was being stolen. He told them it had to be stopped. He told them to go to the Capitol. Donald Trump's whole second impeachment was based on the allegation that his actions and rhetoric in the weeks leading up to January 6th, up to and including his incendiary speech on that day, led directly and predictably to the Capitol insurrection. And so here is where else we are in unprecedented territory as Americans right now. Not only are we still grappling with the aftermath and the repercussions of January 6th? Not only are its hundreds of alleged perpetrators still making their way through the legal system as we speak, but the dynamic that led to the insurrection, Donald Trump and his allies riling up his supporters with the big lie, with accusations of a stolen election and demands that something be done about it, that is ongoing. I mean, there's no real analogy for this situation, but imagine if after all those Nixon officials went to trial and then a few months later, Nixon resigned under threat of impeachment, but then Richard Nixon went on a national Watergate speaking tour and he held rallies to tell his crowds that he'd be back in office any minute, as long as his great patriotic supporters did everything they could to keep obstructing that deep state fake Watergate investigation.